Our country is home to some of the most beautiful God-given landscapes in the world. We're blessed with natural treasures, from the Grand Tetons to the Grand Canyon, from lush forests and vast deserts to lakes and rivers teeming with wildlife. And it's our responsibility to protect these treasures for future generations, just as previous generations protected them for us.
Many of our economic activities pose a threat to our environment, which provides us with resources that are integral to our way of life.
We can all agree that our country's natural treasures need to be protected.
But how do we balance our desire to protect the environment with our need for growth in industry and business?
Now, I'm hearing from my constituents back home about their concerns. They're concerned that the pledges that the President is committing the United States to will strengthen foreign economies at the expense of American workers and will line the pockets of developing nations with millions of American taxpayer dollars. All this is being proposed at a time of scarce resources which are needed to strengthen our economy, to fend off threats to our nation's security, and to address humanitarian crises abroad.
Efforts by the federal government to reduce our impact on the climate and increase production of clean energy also take away jobs from traditional energy sources and sap much-needed funding that could go to other projects.
In terms of other traditional resources, right, coal I think right now is probably the one traditional resource that is most coming under fire. And so as we retire out older coal plants, those jobs do go away.
On August 3rd of this year, the EPA put its Clean Power Plan into effect, which aims to reduce the carbon imprint of factories by cutting their emissions to 90% below 2005 levels and reducing pollutants by over 20% by 2030. But will we see this regulation hinder industry?
I've heard more complaints, for instance, in recent years about the Environmental Protection Agency and how harmful it's been to small and medium-sized businesses across this country. And it's forced many companies out of business or forced them to merge with bigger companies and that have sent jobs to other countries. And so now we've ended up with the best educated waiters and waitresses in the world because we've sent so many millions of jobs to other countries. And we have to be more concerned about our economy and keeping jobs here in this country.
While many make the argument that our nation's push towards clean energy and strict environmental regulation has pushed jobs out of the country, others cite the millions of U.S. jobs that clean energy has created in recent years.
There are now more solar jobs in the United States than coal jobs. Renewable energy jobs and solutions are in abundance in New Mexico, and this is true for many other states.
It is in our economic interest because the costs of inaction properly accounted for will dwarf the costs of acting, and because no one is better positioned than the United States to win big in the multi-trillion-dollar 21st century market for low-carbon energy innovation. It is in our diplomatic interest because climate change is a high and rising priority for countries all over the world, and it is untenable for the United States to stand apart.
For many, the incentive for our country to make the shift away from traditional energy sources and move towards a future of renewable energy is not an ethical one, but an economic one.
When the numbers work, and when you can see you're actually going to save money or you're going to make money on your investment, it's easier to go green. And that's the exciting point where we are today with solar, is you can do the right thing and you can make money.
That's a significant jump that won't happen unless we have, from a legislative perspective and from a government perspective, an investment in research. And so one thing I like to see is a continued investment in research so we can really drive science into this clean energy space.
Many make the argument that the United States should not be devoting so many resources to clean energy production if other countries are not pulling equal weight.
In November 2014, President Obama and the President of China made a joint announcement on targets to reduce net greenhouse gas emissions. President Obama pledged to reduce U.S. net greenhouse gases by 26 to 28% by 2025. China agreed to peak its carbon dioxide emissions in 2030. This agreement forces Americans to drastically decrease our emissions immediately, while China will be allowed to let their emissions continue to rise for the next 15 years.
We'll still be doing tomorrow what we were doing yesterday. So the question is, how do we change that?
You know, it's a very exciting time, a lot of innovation going on.
We as a nation, really as a world, need to think about sustainability, right? That's really where we need to focus.
Do you feel that clean energy expansion or regulation is a substantial topic for presidential hopefuls to be discussing in their campaigns?
It certainly should be, because it's one of the most important topics that we have.
For presidential candidates, clean energy is a topic of utmost importance. It touches on social, economic, and international issues.
We must decide what our country's energy future will look like, and where clean energy will fit into that future.